What's good, everybody? Did you miss me? I certainly missed you. Today, I have a tale coming from the universe of yours truly, written and narrated by the Elevated Chillz Family. This one gets my blood pumping every time. I hope you ghouls and goblins enjoy this one. This one is for you, family. This story is about a rodent named Chipp. I found Chipp one hot summer day at my landfill. I remember his previous owner tossing Chipp from the cab of his truck and quickly making dust. He left him all alone to fend for himself, knowing not much resource was around for Chipp, for at a landfill, I knew his chances at life were not optimal, and I wanted to change that. It would seem as if nobody wanted Chipp. In fact, my crew tried hurting Chipp the first day of him being left behind. But thankfully, Chipp avoided the poisonous food because after they left, I quickly discarded it and gave him other sources of food. Nobody understood how Chipp kept living, so I kept this secret between me and only. I fell in love with Chipp the day I set eyes on his furry little body. Although he was very timid towards me, I couldn't help but adore him. I could tell Chipp wasn't like the rest of the rodents. In fact, he didn't like humans at all. I mean, could you blame him? I couldn't. I know he likes to chew things like the farmer's pipeline and sometimes the wires connecting the machinery. And to be fair, he probably shouldn't, but I don't care. I love Chipp, and I know Chipp loves me. Sometimes he will bite my arm when I'm trying to feed him, but I know he can't help it. But I knew I could help him. One day, I seen explosives going off in the field miles away. On a day, coincidentally, my boss told me to take off. I knew what the farmers were trying to do. They wanted Chipp dead, but not me. I love Chipp, and I know Chipp loves me. I gave my crew the wrong information about Chipp's whereabouts, and luckily, over a series of months, I memorized where I knew Chipp had made his little cozy home. So I quickly drove over to his home before the explosives were set around him. It took about a half hour before I could capture Chipp, but I finally did it in time before the farmers were going to attempt to take his life again. The whole ride home, my heart was full of happiness. I was so glad Chipp was going to have a forever home, finally. I was glad Chipp was in my life, and I was going to make sure nothing changed that. During the trip home, he kept biting into my arms, tearing my seat covers, drawing blood, and foaming at the mouth. But I knew that was his way of telling me he cares for me too, because I love Chipp, and I know he loves me. I feel like I sorta rescued Chipp, or in reality, did Chipp rescue me? Most of the time, he bites into my chest while I hold him. Sometimes it hurts and I develop a fever over this happening repeatedly. But I can't help it. I love Chipp, and I know Chipp loves me. I eventually dedicated my back lawn to Chipp so he could roam free and not worry about being poisoned. I only fed him the most organic of vegetables. My family didn't like it, but I know Chipp did. Half of the time, he keeps to himself in that dark, cold corner. The other half of the time, he sits in my lap, tearing my clothes up, biting me deep. But I can't help it. I know this is the way Chipp shows me affection. Chipp doesn't seem to like any other animals, or even birds at that matter, but I know deep in Chipp's heart, he likes me. Most nights, I stay awake due from Chipp eating frantically during all hours of the night. I slowly developed a bad case of insomnia. My crew tells me that I need to get rid of Chipp, but that's nonsense. I love Chipp. Why would I do that? After a few good months with Chipp, my doctor said if I don't get rid of Chipp, one day my health will pay for it. He says that my sight is going to eventually give out on me, leaving me an ultimatum. I told the doctor to mind his own business and quickly rushed home to see Chipp. Upon arriving at home, I dropped my lunchbox and ran into my backyard to hold Chipp once again, but this time he was nowhere to be found. I searched all of his favorite spots. I searched inside the tree. I even searched in the darkest of places, but I know Chipp. I thought he was probably just sleeping somewhere. Of course Chipp wouldn't run away, 'cause I love Chipp, and Chipp loves me. After days of searching for Chipp, I finally found him curled up inside of an old tire rim. He wasn't doing too good, and to be honest with you, neither was I. After hours of research and help from the local doctors, they all told me he had a disease, and he didn't have more than a week left in his little rodent brain. They wanted to euthanize him there then on the spot, but that is absurd. I couldn't bear to think about my life without Chipp. He was the only one I really could relate to. He never judged me. He never left me forsaken like everybody else did. So I decided, if Chipp was going to go, I wanted to go with him. Scared of the fact of losing Chipp, I placed Chipp into his home container and he quickly curled into a ball with minimal movement. I knew Chipp wasn't doing well, and neither was I. We swiftly drove downtown near the Maple Bridge, shaking with this fever getting the best of me, my heart throbbing and my sight was going out fast, but I knew what I had to do. All I can remember on that day is Chipp giving Chipp one last kiss, spading on the highway, my face covered in my own tears, the smell of burning tires filling the air, and finally, with a loud crash and a warm blast of broken street rail, my car was flooding, and it was flooding fast. I knew it may be the end for me, but I knew it was just the beginning of our journey. The water eventually overpowered my car. I couldn't breathe and everything went black. Eventually, I gave in to the cold rushing waters of the Spokane River, and I gave Chipp my last goodbye. I didn't regret my actions on that day. Why, you may ask? Because I love Chipp, and Chipp loves me. Stay creepy, family. Stay weird. Stay elevated. I'll see you next time.